Sister Diana Chia, President of the NTUC, Brother Chan Chun Sing, Secretary General, Mr. Guy Ryder, Director General of the ILO, delegates from ITUC Asia Pacific and the ATUC, the ASEAN Trade Unions Congress, delegates to our International Forum on Tripartism, brothers and sisters. A very good evening to all of you. I'm very happy to be here this evening for this NTUC National Delegates Conference. We hold a National Delegates Conference every 4 years, but this one is special because this year is SG50, our 50th anniversary, and NTUC has played a huge part getting Singapore here because the unions are a cornerstone of our unique system of tripartism, built and nurtured painstakingly over the years. So it's very appropriate for NTUC, for the Ministry of Manpower, and for the Employers Federation to hold a global conference on tripartism to coincide with this delegates conference. It's timely because many countries around the world face similar challenges because globalization and technology advances are affecting workers all around the world. I'll give you one graphic example. You've heard many lectures about globalization, but I don't think you've heard this story. Recently, I met the director of the British Museum, Mr. Neil McGregor. He, a few years ago, produced a very successful series of radio talks. It was called A History of the World in 100 Objects. So he had 100 radio programs, each one 15 minutes, and for each program he chose one item from the British Museum collection to talk about it and illustrate something about mankind, something about that civilization, something about progress. They chose all the items. The question was, what were they going to choose as item number 100? The final thing to represent the world today, to embody the concerns and aspirations of humanity. And they had a list of things, but one of the items on the short list for this object number 100 was a football jersey. Football jersey. Which football team? Chelsea. Why is it special? Because Chelsea is an English football club, okay? But it's owned, I'm sure you know, by a Russian billionaire, Roman Abramovich. And the football jersey was a shirt number belonging to the striker. The striker was Didier Drogba. He belongs to the Ivory Coast, but he's playing in England for an English team. And the shirt, I think you can guess where the shirt was made. The shirt was made by Chinese workers in China. So that is what globalization means. And we all benefit from it. We have the worldwide division of labor. This is called a supply chain. But at the same time, it's put workers everywhere under pressure. And it's made our fortunes of countries, fortunes of our economies, much more interdependent. The world changes faster, conditions are much less predictable. And no matter where you are, which country you may belong to, you are competing with workers from around the world. And that's just globalization. But on top of that, you've got technology, also disrupting industries, also displacing workers. Not just workers in factories, but also workers in offices, white-collar workers, even professionals, lawyers, accountants, and doctors. Because if you want to search documents, you have AI programs, artificial intelligence, can go through 1 million emails and pick up the ones which are interesting, or a pattern of emails, who said what to whom. And if you want to diagnose illnesses, some computer programs now can be as good as doctors at making the judgment. Is it breast cancer? Is it not breast cancer? What could it be? Enormous database and the same feel as a very experienced professional. So a lot of jobs are going to be disrupted. Every economy is going to be disrupted, and especially Singapore, because we are a small country with the most open economy in the world. We depend heavily on foreign investments, we depend heavily on trade, and so much of what we produce, we cannot consume ourselves. We make petrochemicals, we sell it to the whole world. We want smartphones, we can't make our own smartphones. We buy them from the world. The food we eat, it comes from NTUC Food Fair, but NTUC Food Fair buys it from suppliers all over the world. You ask Seah Kian Peng in Fair Price, and he will tell you where his suppliers are from. Many, many countries. So our workers and our companies have to accept globalization as a fact of life. And we have to contend not only with technological change here, but wherever we go and do business, wherever we live. In fact, even in China, it's happening to them, and they are the world's factory, but they too are rapidly automating. Last year, about 250,000 industrial robots were purchased worldwide. But 1 in 4 of these robots went to China or were made in China. So they are automating on a huge scale. And in Guangdong province, where there are a lot of Chinese factories, they are aiming to have 80% of their factories automated by 2020, in 5 years' time. So they are no longer armies of workers. They are going to be as productive and as competitive as other countries. And the Guangdong province government has got a program to subsidize companies to buy robots. So there's one company in Dongguan, which is in Guangdong, which has built a fully automated factory. It's used to have 650 workers. Now it only has 60 workers. 1/10. Its production volume has gone up 3 times. Its defects rate have gone down 5 times. So the Chinese are seeing this too. And they are competition for us. But they are not the only competition for us. We are getting competition from developed countries, from advanced economies as well. New York City, New York State in America, they are making heavy investments in technology. We build new universities, they link up. Advanced universities, Cornell in New York is being linked up with the Technion, which is one of the top universities in Israel, technical university, and the state is funding them $2 billion. And the state is investing. We talk about broadband network, fiber. New York State, also state money, investing statewide broadband network. And we talk about investments. They talk about investments in high tech. And New York State has become the second most vibrant startup hub in the US after Silicon Valley. So they are friends, they are advanced, they are also competition. Japan, they compete with us. Even on cost, they compete with us. Singaporean workers want higher wages. Japanese workers also want higher wages. Singaporean engineers say wages not high enough. Japanese engineers say our wages are lower than Singaporean engineers. That's competition for us. And these are long-term secular trends. They may vary from year to year, but gradually you can see them happening more and more. But in addition to the secular trends, the global economy is also facing cyclical headwinds. The US economy is soft, the European economy is stagnant, China is slowing down. Singapore's own exports are flat. PSA handling fewer containers. Our GDP growth this third quarter is down year on year, just 1.4%. So we have to be prepared for a slowdown, possibly a downturn. So when things are as uncertain as this, it's no wonder that workers all around the world are feeling anxious and insecure. And it's no wonder that the trends are putting pressure on wages and causing wages to stagnate. Old jobs are getting lost. Whole industries and companies are changing. Skills become obsolete faster than before. We get new jobs, they're coming, but they take time. And to learn new skills takes time. And for workers to change jobs, change industries, fit into a new niche, become productive again, earn the same as before, hopefully more. Not always so easy, especially if you're older workers. So, what is the way forward? How do we improve our lives, workers' lives? It's a question on many minds, so it's very timely that the ILO is launching a major initiative on the future of work at the International Labour Conference earlier this year, and Mr. Guy Ryder talked about it in his lecture this morning. Singapore will participate in this ILO initiative because it makes a lot of sense for us. We will share our experience. At the same time, we hope to learn from the experiences of others. We've made Singapore a developed economy, but the truth is, we have not solved for all time the problem of how to make a living for ourselves. For now, yes. For the future, just to maintain this, never mind to become better, we have to keep on looking for new solutions. We can't resist globalization and technology, because if we try to do that, our economy will stagnate, workers will become uncompetitive, Singapore will be left behind. We have to ride the wave, move forward, use the power of free markets to our advantage. We have to depend on free markets because the governments by themselves can't generate wealth. And if you try a centrally planned economy, you cannot compete against free markets and open competition. Because with free markets, you can be efficient, you can be nimble, you're under pressure to perform, you have to break even, and businesses have incentives to do well, to grow new opportunities, and workers have the incentives to improve, upskill themselves, earn a little bit more. And that's why the Chinese have abandoned their centrally planned economy. Now they call it a socialist market economy. And it's very competitive. Cuba, probably one of the last holdouts, but even in Cuba now, they are belatedly reforming and opening up. They are very talented, hardworking people, but the system is wrong. The central planning didn't work. It's taken them 50 years before they acknowledge their mistake, and now they are changing, opening up. So we have to go with the flow, we have to go with competition, with the markets, and be able to compete. But it doesn't mean that the state doesn't have anything to do. The state, the government, we've got to create the conditions so that the markets can generate prosperity for all of us. We've got to maintain law and order. We've got to build the infrastructure. We've got to provide essential public goods, education, healthcare, public housing. And we've got to set the rules, for example, to prevent monopolies from forming to the detriment of consumers. And we've got to mitigate the excesses and the negative effects of a market system, which there will be. So the government supports workers, acquiring higher skills so that they can stay employable. It helps displaced workers to find new jobs. It strengthens safety nets to help those who are left behind. And this is what we've been doing in Singapore. We've been strengthening our safety nets, giving our people better protection in a less stable environment. So we have the progressive wage model to upgrade the skills and the wages of low-income workers, like security guards and cleaners. We're implementing MediShield Life to give every citizen lifelong medical insurance protection for hospitalization bills. And we're going to implement silver support soon to complement the CPF system to make sure that every Singaporean has adequate provision for their retirement years. At the same time, the government is upgrading our economy to keep our businesses and workers competitive. Minister Heng Swee Keat is leading a committee on the future economy to review our economic strategies. We know our direction to improve productivity so that we can sustain higher wages for all, but we need to review our specific measures, how to help our domestic sectors grow, how to attract investments, help companies to develop new markets, how to make the best use of the foreign workers and foreign talent that we need in Singapore. In particular, we are upgrading our workers to equip workers to benefit from the changes which are happening. That's what Skills Future is about. To provide every Singaporean opportunities to develop to their full potential, regardless of their starting point in life, throughout their careers. So you can work, train, each time you train, each time you have new qualifications and skills, you upgrade. If I list all the challenges, it sounds like a lot to do, and challenging, daunting. But I think if we compare ourselves with other countries, Singapore is well placed to tackle these problems, and I think we can look forward to our future with confidence. Because we have people well educated, because we have an ethos which is outward looking, because we have a tech-savvy society, because we have good unions who know what we need to do and will work with us to help to make it happen. And we are seeing it happen already, solutions and improvements. For example, in PSA, I went to visit them a few months ago when they opened the new wharves at Pasir Panjang, and they showed me their new container yards. It used to be that the container cranes, the gantry cranes, used to have operators to maneuver and bring the containers up, across, down, one by one. Now, the gantry cranes are automated. They work by themselves. One supervisor looks at 3 or 4 cranes. When the crane gets stuck, it says, "Beep, help me." Supervisor pays attention to that from a screen. Then that's cleared. He can track 3 or 4 cranes at once. The cranes do most of the work. Result, more productivity, better jobs, better pay, better performance. And we are able to do this because the unions are with us. We can talk to the unions. We can retrain the crane operators. We can restructure the jobs. Not every country can do that. In many countries, you want to restructure the job, you spend years negotiating, compensating, arguing, often stuck. But in Singapore, we work together, we work out a win-win solution, we move forward. How do the unions fit in this landscape? Well, different countries have taken different paths. In many European countries, there are very strong unions. And in some of them, the unions are strongly entrenched and enforce the status quo and block changes. Union members have very strong protections, but those who don't belong to the union, particularly the unemployed or the young ones who are just entering the workforce, carry the burden. To hire a permanent worker, you have high costs, you have strict rules, so companies are reluctant to hire permanent workers. Result, unemployment is higher, younger people can't get permanent work, they do temporary jobs, security is less, working conditions not as favorable. Maybe they don't get work and they stay unemployed for a long time. And when the economy doesn't do well, labor relations are stressed, we have more quarrels, and the strife further hurts the economy. And it happens. It happens because the system has gone in the wrong direction and it's not so easy to put it right. The British faced this problem in the 1960s and 70s. And when the NTUC was formed in the 1960s, we looked at it and we decided to try and avoid the situation which the British had got themselves into. It's called, at that time, they called it a British disease. And we said, no, we must find a different way. And that was a strong impetus for us to try and set a different model in Singapore. The British eventually got out of that model. Not everybody is happy, but today British relations, labor relations are different. But on the continent, there are still problems. France is still caught in a trap like that. And finding change is hard to manage, even though it has to modernize. You may have heard of a 35-hour work week in France. You're not allowed to work more than 35 hours. And if you do, there may be legal penalties. It's illegal. Some French businesses want to work more than 35 hours. In fact, they want to push from 35 to 39 hours because there are jobs there which they feel are endangered. If you can't work more flexibly, the jobs may go elsewhere. May go to Slovakia, may go to Slovenia, may go to outside the European Union, maybe go to China. But even when the workers want it, the unions don't always want it. And in fact, there's one union which is campaigning to reduce the French work week from 35 hours to reduce it to 32 hours a week. So, well, if you are one of the workers working 35 or 32 hours, you may feel happy. But as a system, I don't think it's a happy outcome. France is an example, but other European countries, some of them, have similar problems. If you look on the other side of the ocean in the United States, they have a different model. Their unions are weak. Membership has been declining for many years. They have a more flexible labor market and a more dynamic economy than the Europeans. But it doesn't mean that there are no problems for workers. Because in America, productivity has gone up, but wages have not gone up by very much. The workers haven't got a fair share of prosperity, and they feel it. They find themselves exposed to uncertainties, to upheavals which are beyond their control. The economy goes wrong, there's a financial crisis. They had nothing to do with it, but they suffer grievously from it. And the anxiety and their discontent shows up in different ways. In politics is one of the reasons why Congress is stuck, because of the very strong unhappiness on the ground, which cannot find a solution. So there's gridlock. Problems cannot be solved. If you ask Americans, are you supporting free trade? Do you support immigration? Are you confident of where you stand, of America's position in the world? They're not so confident. And so America finds it very difficult to promote free trade, to deepen links around the world, to enhance its standing around the world. The system is under stress. That's another model. Let's take a third model, closer home in Asia. Take China. It's a socialist market economy. The unions are very close to the government. They don't have Western-style elections, so theoretically, you don't have to worry about votes or about economic uncertainties making workers unhappy. But it's not so easy. The unions are closely aligned with the government, yes. So unions also will not be difficult. But when workers have problems, workers do have problems. The Chinese workers face fierce competition, competition from each other, competition between different cities and provinces, competitions from other investment destinations like Vietnam, competition from robots, as I told you. So the welfare of workers remains a concern, and when things become difficult, Chinese workers also express their discontent. So there are thousands of demonstrations every year, tens of thousands of demonstrations every year in China, in different places. And from time to time, Chinese workers will send a delegation, not to the Delegates Conference, but to Beijing in order to petition the senior leaders and try and get their grievances resolved. So every country confronts the challenges in its own way. And each one has to find its own way and strike its own balance. In Singapore, the solution which we have settled on is tripartism, a partnership of the unions, of the employers, of government. And it's a formula which has worked well for us. We have a strong labor movement with the interests of workers at heart. We have employers who have learned to see unions as partners rather than opponents. So the SNEF representative can come to a union delegates conference and we can address him as Brother Robert Yap, which doesn't happen in very many countries. And we've got a government where there are also brothers and sisters, and the government tries to pursue sound national policies which promote growth and which further the workers' interests. And the government does this not least because it's a PAP government, a party whose roots were in the trade union movement and which maintains a close symbiotic relationship with the NTUC to this day. So that's how we do it here. We involve unions and union leaders in our key national decisions. So they sit in forums which shape policy, the NWC, National Wages Council, the Skills Future Council, the National Productivity Council. When we have economic review committees, we make sure that the unions are represented and their views are heard. Union leaders serve on stat boards. They are on the boards of publicly listed companies. Union MPs, Labour MPs in Parliament, speak up for workers. And the Secretary General of the NTUC has to have at least 2 mandates. One, he has to be elected by the union delegates to be the Secretary General. 2, he has to be elected as an MP so that he is a member of Parliament and so that he can be appointed a cabinet minister and sit in cabinet with a voice where we discuss all the key issues in Singapore. And that's why we have tripartite partners who can work as equals and who can trust one another. It's an arrangement which has worked well. If we had a weak union movement, which cannot represent workers properly, cannot get a fair deal from employers, I think that's not only bad for workers, it's bad for Singapore, and sooner or later we'll run into trouble. If we have strong unions but hostile, antagonistic, focused narrowly on short-term interests of members, it'll hold back the country and eventually workers will get hurt. So what we need in Singapore is a strong labor movement with good support from workers, a seat at the table, working constructively with employers and the government to get the best deal for workers and advance the shared national interest. We didn't get here overnight. We've been building this tripartite relationship over many decades. It goes back to Mr. Lee Kuan Yew and Secretary General, the first Secretary General, or one of the early ones, Mr. Devan Nair, who changed the union model and labor management relationship model to what we have today, and who took us on this journey, which has seen us through ups and downs, good times, bad times, built trust, dealt with problems, reinforced trust, and taken us forward. Sometimes people criticize this model to say, oh, you're not fierce enough. You don't look like union leaders because you don't make demonstrations, you don't go on strike, you don't shout fierce slogans. But the best union leader is the one who gets the best deal for his workers, not the one who is the fiercest. And it's worked for us. And the proof is this, just one small fact. In most countries, union membership is going down. In Singapore, union membership is going up. And we have 900,000 union members. So we work through cooperation, not through strife, through tripartism, not industrial warfare. And that's how NTUC has stayed relevant and has improved people's lives. Now, Singapore is 50 years old. We are going into the next phase. And the question is, what do we do? I say we keep the tripartism formula, but the tripartite partners have to upgrade themselves, have to raise their game. You have to strengthen and maintain the trust that we have built into the next generation. And each of the tripartite partners must do its own upgrading. Government to develop new economic policies, employers making sure that companies stay viable, finding new business opportunities, unions staying relevant to new union members in a new economy. So the labor movement too must adapt. And I'll just give you a few examples of what you are doing and what you have to do. You have to adapt to an older workforce, the aging population. Workers are older, they want to work longer, and the labor movement has helped to deal with this, to design jobs, to design salary structures, to facilitate older workers staying employed, to persuade employers to value the experience which older workers have, and to get the government to agree to raise the re-employment age, which we are going to do, as I told you recently. It's now 65. We are going to push it to 67 within the next 2 years. The unions must adapt to other things which are changing too. The other thing which is happening to the workforce is that we are finding many more professionals in the workforce. Already, half the workforce in Singapore is PMETs, and I think if we go forward, probably 2/3 in time, maybe even more. And so the labor movement cannot just be for the rank and file non-PMETs. It has to represent the professionals, the managements, the executives, and the technical workers. And the PMETs have different needs, different issues. They are different from blue-collar workers, but they also need to be organized, they also need help, they also need guidance, and they also can benefit from being NTUC, from joining unions affiliated to the NTUC and being looked after by the union movement. These are things the unions must do. To do them, the unions need good leaders. Leaders who are respected and trusted by members, who are firm in defending workers' interests but appreciate the broader national interests. Leaders who can rally the ground and hold support. The NTUC has institutionalized leadership renewal. You have a 3-flow framework. It's one of Brother Lim Swee Say's slogans, and it's a serious one. Flow in talent, flow up those with good potential to hold leadership positions, and then flow on those who have made their contributions so that younger leaders can take over from them. And with this framework over the years, NTUC has built up a strong core of 6,000 leaders. In this delegates conference, you are going to elect a new central committee. I think the election is on Thursday. And as part of this renewal process, several current CC members will be flowing on and stepping down. Brother Lim Swee Say himself stepped down earlier this year and handed over to Brother Chan Chun Sing. At this Delegates Conference, Sister Diana will be stepping down. Diana started off as a nurse, joined the union more than 25 years ago. She rose from the ranks to become our first female NTUC president. She set the path. I'm sure she won't be the last one. Brother Lim Kwang Beng served the labor movement for 25 years too. He started out in SISU, the Singapore Industrial and Service Employees Union. He was elected to the Central Committee in 2003 and has served as a Secretary for Financial Affairs since 2011. Sister Nora started out 30 years ago with the POSB Employees Union. She was elected to the Central Committee 1997, 18 years ago, and she's been chairperson for NTUC's Women's Committee for the past 8 years. They've been effective union leaders. They understand workers' concerns. They know the national interest. They've influenced the government and helped the government to implement policies which benefit workers. And I've worked closely with them. We speak candidly with one another. We know how each other thinks, and we can rely on each other to get things done. So I thank them for their service, for their support, for their friendship, brothers and sisters. Now, the delegates have to vote for a new Central Committee. Many of the candidates are familiar faces because the NTUC has been developing them for some time, and it's time for them to step up. At the national level, we just held our elections. We voted in a new government, and I'm honored that Singaporeans gave my team a strong mandate to take the country forward. Now it's NTUC's turn to hold your elections, and you have to give your team a strong mandate to take the NTUC forward. Choose the right people, support them firmly so that they can speak for you with a strong voice, so that they can deal for you with their tripartite partners, so they can represent you and work out a long-term vision for the labor movement and realize that vision together with you, for NTUC. Over the last 50 years, we've nurtured a special model of tripartism. It's enabled our people to excel, our businesses to grow, our nation to thrive. It's been a major ingredient in our success, and it comes down to having good leaders who forge friendships and trust over a long period, who shared the same passion to improve the lives of Singaporeans, and who can mobilize Singaporeans, particularly workers, to overcome the challenges and build a better Singapore. So that's what the labor movement has done for many, many years. Let's continue to uphold this model of tripartism and continue to move forward as one united people. Thank you very much.